Hey guys, how you going? So today I'm doing my February wrap up. Can't believe February's already over. Like, it's actually ridiculous how quick this year is going already. But yeah, I'm just gonna get straight into my wrap up and I'm gonna start off with some stats. This month I read 1 book written by a man and 7 books written by a woman. And I read 0 books written before 1900. I read 7 books between the 20th century and 2016. And I read 1 book which was published this year. Okay, so let's get straight into the wrap up. So the first book I read was Mortal Heart by Robin Lefebvre. This is the 3rd and final book in the Grave Mercy His Fair Assassins trilogy, and I loved this. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars just because I didn't love it as much as I loved the first 2, but other than that, this is such a fantastic book and I have to recommend this series to absolutely everybody. This series is basically about assassins who worship death in the 1400s in Brittany, which is basically the north of France, and I just absolutely love it. Like, they literally do death's handiwork by killing people. So this series is a companion series, so the first book follows one girl and the second 2 books follow 2 different girls as well, but they all sort of relate and they all take place after one another. So the second book takes off right where the first book left, and so on. So the second book I read this month is called Envelope Poems by Emily Dickinson. So this is a little book of poetry, but this was not intended to be published. So Emily Dickinson only published about, I think it was like 40 or so works throughout her life, but she's written over like 2,000, something ridiculously like that. And when she died, they went through her house and they found all these little sort of poems written on the back of envelopes. And so what they've done is they've got her handwriting and then they've got sort of just like a printed translation. I only gave this poetry collection 2 stars. And I think this was mainly just because I honestly didn't understand half the poems. They didn't make sense, or the typography just, it was illegible, and therefore the translation into the printed version didn't make sense. Just things like that. And you know, she only published 40 works and I just feel like these were not meant to be published, and that's why I didn't like them. Like, she intentionally did not publish them. And yeah, I gave this 2 stars. I feel like if I go and read some other Emily Dickinson poetry, some of the stuff she's actually intended to publish, I will quite like it, but this just wasn't for me. It didn't make sense, and yeah, I understand why she never published them. So the next book I read in the month of February was This is Van Gogh by George Rodham. So this is just essentially a little sort of bio / pamphlet that's done. It basically uses his art to tell the story of his life. It's a biography told through his art. So it'll have like his self-portrait, and then it starts off with like the intro to his life. It'll have like one of his first ever drawings, and it talks about how like this drawing shows a part of his life where he was heavily influenced by poverty and things like that. And I just absolutely love this. It's got a huge 5 out of 5 stars for me. Van Gogh is my favorite artist. I absolutely adored reading this book. I flew through it in like one night. I think I read Envelope Poems and this book in one night, and I just loved it so much. Van Gogh is so amazing, and if anyone is interested in Van Gogh, I highly recommend this book along with this one here. I didn't read this one this month, I read it last year, but this is just a little sort of like graphic novel told through art and little cartoons that are sort of similar to Van Gogh's art, and I just love them both. So if anyone is looking for some really great Van Gogh books, I highly recommend these 2. So the next book I read I don't actually have a copy of on me because it was one of the books I read from work, but this was the one book that was published in 2017, and it was called The Golden Child by Wendy James. So this book was interesting. I really liked the premise of it and I kind of enjoyed reading it, but I still only gave it 2 stars. I found it quite predictable and I wasn't a huge fan of some of the characters. However, I have to admit, I didn't pick the twist at the end, and I did find the depiction of like an Australian family life very realistic, but I just didn't enjoy reading it. So this book takes place in Newcastle, Australia, which is actually not far from me, and so I really enjoyed that sort of community feeling. It's a sort of, I like to call it a contemporary thriller, so it's set sort of in a family environment, but it does have a lot more sinister sort of topics. So this book tells the story of 2 families who both have daughters in the same year at school, and one of them is a bully and the other one is being bullied, and these 2 families think that their daughters are best friends. They ask them to hang out quite often, but it turns out that that is not the case. This book tells a lot about cyberbullying, and it's extremely like pertinent and important in today's day and age. I think that was extremely well done. I just really hated the writing style of this. Now I have to say that I did read an unproofed copy of this book, so I can't, like, it is possible that in between the unproofed copy and the actual release date there was a proper like edit and the things that I didn't like about it were changed, so my review is not entirely accurate. But yeah, I just really didn't like the writing style, and as much as you can edit things, the writing style still stays the same regardless of what's been edited or not. So I really do think that, yeah, this book just wasn't for me. I did love the idea of it though, and yeah, I really did think that it was an important read, and I loved the elements of it that were sort of set in the Sydney Central Coast area. But yeah, I just have to say this book wasn't for me. I'd still recommend it to anyone who likes things like Leanne Moriarty and anything like that. They should definitely pick it up. So the next book I read was a bit of a joke. So my boyfriend and I, Nick, who I will upload a video with in a couple of days time, have this sort of ongoing joke about poop, which I'm not really gonna go into, but yeah, we just make jokes about poop a lot. And so for Valentine's Day, I was at my work and this book came onto my radar and I just had to get it for him as a joke. So this book is called What is Poo, and it is actually the best book. It was actually educational. I learnt stuff. So this is a little flap book for young children that teaches them sort of what poo is and what it's about. So this book is actually freaking awesome. So it's got little flaps in it like this. So it's like, what is poo? And there's like a poo in the toilet. But I seriously learnt things like apparently whales poo pink. Who knew that? So, you know what, this book was actually, it was funny, it was fun, it was educational. Like, what more could you want out of a book? And the topic is literally poo. So like, if you're looking for a laugh, or you've got small kids, or a light read, my boyfriend just screamed that out from the room next door. If you're looking for a light read, pick this one up. So the next book I read was Blood for Blood by Ryan Groden. This got 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. This is the second book in the Wolf by Wolf series, or duology. I absolutely love this. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I did do a wrap up of it, which I will link down below, so you can definitely check that out if you're interested. But this book is the second book in a series which is set in an alternate history where Hitler won World War II and is still in power in the 1950s, and our main character Yael is a shapeshifter because she was part of the Holocaust, and following on the years after we know our history, the Holocaust sort of evolved and they sort of tried to wipe out people's genetic material, and in doing so they created shapeshifters. So our main character Yael essentially plans to kill Hitler by pretending she's someone she's not. So if that premise appeals to you at all, you have to pick up this book. This series, Wolf by Wolf and Blood for Blood, it's one of the best series or duologies that I have read in a very long time. It is age appropriate for like anyone in like, you know, year 6 or middle grade and upwards. It's, you know, it's an easy read, but it's historically accurate. Like, there's no bad things in it. I just loved it. If you want to hear more, I'll link my review down below. Definitely check it out because I just absolutely loved this. So the last two books go together. So I read Shatter Me by Tahara Murphy, and I read Destroy Me, which is the first book in the Unite Me little novella parts that are part of this series. I gave Shatter Me 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed the writing style of this. I thought that it was such a cool idea. So Shatter Me is about a girl who basically has a lethal touch, and this is set in a futuristic world where basically people have killed the world because of, you know, pollution and greenhouse gases and everything that the government is currently talking to us about. So this is, yeah, set in a future where that has happened, and, you know, the world is basically shithouse. And there's this new government called the Re-establishment that are, you know, not the greatest, and they're like locking people up and just doing all kinds of stuff. Now Juliet, our main character, has a lethal touch, and the Re-establishment plans to use her as a weapon. Yeah, that's where our book takes off, and I loved it. The writing style was so good. I couldn't put it down. It was such a quick read. I flew through this in like 2 days. I'm not kidding. I'm not a quick reader, and yeah, I just absolutely adored this. I've heard that the second and third book get much better, and so I'm really excited about that. This was 4 stars just because it was a bit juvenile, but I can just tell that it's gonna take off from here. I'm so excited. So yeah, this got a 4 out of 5 stars to me. I really enjoyed it. And just after that one, I picked up Unite Me, which has got 2 novellas in it, Destroy Me and Fracture Me. I only read Destroy Me because this takes place between book 1 and book 2, so it's book 1.5, and I really enjoyed this. This book is from Warner's point of view, and yeah, I just found this really cool. I think I gave this about 3 stars. You know, it wasn't great. I don't think it was really necessary, But at the same time, we did get a really interesting perspective on Warner, which could have been included in the second book, but at the same time I think was useful for understanding the characters, and I'm sure once I've read the second book, I'll come to see just how useful and important seeing Warner's past actually was. I'm really enjoying the Shatter Me series so far, and I'm really excited to continue on with it in March. Okay guys, thank you so much for watching. So that's my wrap up for February, and I'll have my March TBR up within the next couple of days. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Give me a big thumbs up if you did, and yeah, I'll have my March TBR and I judge a book by its cover tag with my boyfriend up very soon. Have a lovely day guys. I'll see you later.